Okay, would you like to introduce Energy Florida for us?
Well, at this time, I'm going to ask Mike Aller to come up, and Mike, you can be responsible for introducing the balance of your group. Mike represents Energy Florida, and it's your program. I had contacted them after the last meeting. They have the competency to fill some contractual roles for us, and felt like it was appropriate for them to come here today to make a presentation. We do not have to make a decision today, but I would at least like to be productive enough to consider whether or not we want to move forward with them or not. It's pretty good ways to travel from Melbourne. So thank you, Mike.
Thank you, Bill. Thank you, Madam Chair and board members, for having us here today. We're very excited about the opportunity to come and talk with you today about Energy Florida, about what we provide for the communities that we work with, and a little bit more about us. I also have with us, and I'll introduce him a little more formally actually in the presentation, but I have Bennett Boucher, I myself am Mike Aller. I'm Executive Director and CEO of Energy Florida. We have Bennett Boucher, who is our Chief Operating Officer, Tim Franta, who is our Director of Special Projects, and Mark Robinson, who's our Director of Research. So I wanted to thank you for your time, for letting us come and talk with you, and I'll get into the presentation here. First of all, we are a nonprofit association. We work very closely with a number of folks within the energy industry, but we also work with a lot of other industries throughout the state in terms of gathering resources and developing partnerships to help diversify our economy here in Florida. We are an independent organization. We are a nonprofit, and we try to set ourselves out as honest brokers and putting together different types of partnerships to help move Florida forward, to help diversify our economy. And happy to talk with you a little bit more about our process and how we go about doing that. In terms of our team, we have myself. I have a background that did quite a lot of work in Washington, D.C. for a number of different organizations as an economist by training, and I've worked in the government, in the private sector, as a consultant and entrepreneur, as well as in the academic sector. Worked also for a short stint in the Bush administration as well, working on worked on energy policy and environmental issues. I also we have Bennett Boucher, who has been with us for a couple of years now. He was for 17 years the city manager in the city of Cape Canaveral, has a lot of experience in community economic development and finance and infrastructure, and building resources and projects in the Space Coast region of Florida. Tim Franta has been past experience as an economic consultant. He's really our expert in vetting companies. He's done a lot of work vetting a lot of different companies. We're going to talk about some of our projects in that area. But he's also has experience. He was at one point the chief of staff for the Florida Space Authority, which has now become Space Florida. And then Mark Robinson has done a lot of work in over more than 20 years in different types of research, site selection, and asset mapping. And so he has a lot of great experience working in many different industries, and I think we have a great kind of cross-disciplinary team. We have some others on our team as well who back up the team that you have here, but these are really our stars. We also have a great board. Our board is made up of a lot of different entrepreneurs. We have our chairman is an entrepreneur who runs a company in Melbourne in composites. Our vice chair has been former secretary of the Agency for Workforce Innovation and the Department of Management Services for Governor Bush. Our treasurer is a CPA and partner in an accounting firm. We'll run down the line. Another one of our directors, Colleen Castile, was the chief cabinet aide for the Governor Bush. Another is former dean of the Florida Tech Business School and is a expert in organizational management, And then David Steele, who's also on the board, is former VP for Chevron Latin America, and works with us in doing some things on the international side, especially Latin America. How can we help Hardee County succeed? First, I think we can help you identify, expand, and grow the right businesses for your community. We have a lot of experience in helping to identify and build partnerships and identifying and building target industry sectors. So we can help work with you to identify the sectors that you would like to go after, that you would like to support, and then increase the quality and quantity of the prospects that you see within those sectors. So it isn't just about bringing, it isn't just the people who come to you, but actually going out and finding the right people to go after and bring to your community. We also help connect dots. We do a lot of work building supply chains. We have a number of projects we've worked on where we've helped develop and build an integrated network to support business growth. You know, building businesses is really about, it's about the ecosystem that you build. It isn't just you put in a business and you hope it grows. You have to really put in a lot of work to to water it, to give it the resources that it needs, and give it the people and the educational, the business, the financial resources to help them succeed and grow. And that's something that we've done in Central Florida for some time now. We'll talk a little bit about some of the results that we've seen there, but it's something I think that we can help do here in Hardee as well. Next on the list, we help with economic development support. So we have done a lot of work in vetting and due diligence. We certainly could help with that. We have done a lot of work in identifying funding opportunities and partnership opportunities. We do quite a bit of partnership development around federal funding opportunities, around different types of funding programs to help build those types of ecosystems to allow businesses to grow. And we do quite a bit in administration, monitoring, and reporting. You know, this is really the details that, you know, details matter, and we do a lot of work and pride ourselves in being able to really work and make the details sing. Because when you get the details right, everything else flows. And finally, we do, as I said, a lot of public-private partnerships. We help leverage private, state, and federal resources to, you know, achieve goals and find out, you know, you find the right programs in the right way, applied in the right direction, and great things can happen. So our accomplishments. So one of the things that we've been most proud of is a recent program we've been doing called the Clean Energy Jobs Accelerator, which is helping to build an ecosystem within Central Florida, help diversify the Central Florida economy. Within that was over a 2.5 year program. We had a goal of developing 200 jobs within the energy sector. We were able to definitively track and show that we delivered at least 238. We know we did 238. We're pretty sure we did more than that, but we have that pretty well down. You know, there were 34 companies that we helped kind of bring to different financing opportunities. That was, you know, well in excess of the goal that we had set for ourselves in sort of in setting out the project. You know, we helped work with several of the folks at the state level to set up a $4.5 million fund to provide matching funds for federal and private grant programs. That was something that the state of Florida had not had in many, many years. There was a program 3-4 years ago that went away with the recession, and we were able to bring that back and get it funded at a pretty good level. Very excited about that opportunity because it will provide opportunities for businesses across Florida. Likewise, we were able to obtain, you know, through transfers and other fairly, you know, low-cost process, over $2 million in equipment that we were able to leverage with many of the facilities and research opportunities which are at Kennedy Space Center and some of the areas around the Space Center to be able to build what we're calling a space and energy innovation capability, which is a great resource. You know, we've been able to attract a number of, you know, very large-scale, big-name companies to the region, and a lot more are thinking about coming there because of the resources that are available, which they can leverage and use in their own businesses. And we'd love to be able to bring those. And because of all these different things we're able to do, we actually were very honored to be able to receive the Congressional Medal of Merit for the excellent, for for the program that we put together under the Clean Energy Jobs Accelerator and the impact that it had in our community. We're very excited about being able to receive that honor and receive that recognition. Finally, or next on is the agenda, we've been doing a lot in terms of trying to build different types of finance solutions that can be applied, building the ecosystem, building around these companies. One in particular is the EB5 Energy Fund, which is a way to leverage a U.S. Department of Homeland Security visa program to provide for direct investment in communities, especially rural communities. There are special programs and incentives for investing in rural communities through that program, where a lot of folks who are maybe interested in bringing a business to Hardee County could take advantage of an EB5 financing, and it would be very much in their interest to do so. We'd be happy to work with the county on that. Also, in commercial energy efficiency finance, we've been working on a different project, partially federally funded, partially state funded, to write a handbook for local governments on how to implement an energy efficiency finance program in your community and sort of enable your homeowners, your business owners to be able to take advantage of financing for energy improvement, reduce their energy bill, and come out ahead every month. And then we've also been working on building capacity for industrial development bonds to help support development of manufacturing and other types of enterprises throughout the state of Florida. There's a lot of great resources there, and it was great to hear that the IDA is working on bond issuance as well. So in terms of our process, we do a lot of work in looking at targeted industries, focusing on identifying what's here already, what can we leverage, what can we develop, and where can we go from there. And so we do that. We have a lot of experience in vetting various different companies. We have a very intensive vetting process in terms of looking at the background of the company, management, looking at all the different elements of the financials. Then once you know what the company is like, then you also have to look at what the market's like. Because you may have a great company, but if the market's not there, it's never going to fly. So you also have to look at the market assessment, where that goes, and then take a realistic look at what a return on investment might be for jobs, in terms of investment that's reinvested in the community, and be able to give the best professional opinion on these types of issues. Another thing that we pride ourselves on is being able to work in and excel in award administration and monitoring. So we have a wonderful set of tools that we've used in dealing with some of the awards and some of the projects that we've done already. This is actually a example of a dashboard that we did for one of our projects, where it has all of the different metrics that we were looking at. It has a lot of the different, has a very easy, red, green, yellow system to be able to say, where you are relative to your benchmarks, and just having that in one-stop shop to be able to look at all this is a great resource, and a great resource for a board like yours as well, to be able to keep track on things on a regular basis. And what this does, what the process essentially does, is allows us to help identify qualified partners, helps to then take those partners and track and benchmark the progress through the process of the project, and then actually measure the return on investment that we have, so that it would allow you to have a dashboard where you have everything on one page, and you can look at it and say, okay, this quarter they're doing well on this metric, but they're not on this metric. Why? Just in one glance, be able to do that. Those are the types of tools that we've found have been really helpful in management, and I think we can help Hardee County implement as well. In terms of our services, we have a number of different services that we provide. This is just a quick run through of some of them. I've highlighted a few of them more in this particular conversation, but happy to talk about any of these opportunities. And then I really think that engaging our organization, Engaging Energy Florida, will help Hardee County achieve its economic development goals. I'm very happy to answer any questions that you might have, talk with any of you afterward offline. Thank you very much for the opportunity.
Thank you, Mike. I'm sure our board members probably have some questions for you. Are you able to share any of the counties or other boards throughout the state that you've worked with? Is that anything that you could share with us to give us some idea of what other local communities, cities that you might have worked with on these types of projects? And also, can you share with us any of the projects that you guys have successfully helped vet or manage through an award cycle?
In terms of the communities, there are a number of communities that we've worked with, most especially in the Central Florida region, which has been the region that we focus most primarily on. We began as a regional group and have expanded statewide as we've built the network. But we worked very especially with Enterprise Florida, we worked with Space Florida, and we worked with Aurora County, we worked with Orange County, we worked with a number of cities in the region. I've done some work with other folks in other parts of the state as well. We have done some work in the Tallahassee area. We have a board member and are beginning to do some work in the Panhandle, Pensacola area as well. And then, but there are a number of different communities where we have had some projects that have been ongoing. In terms of specific projects, are you talking about what types of projects are you?
Well, are there any projects that you worked on with these clients that you've successfully managed from start to finish, maybe through the vetting of the project and whether it would be a good fit for the client all the way through the award and the funding cycles with the metrics that you shared?
Well, for example, we've done a couple of projects where we've looked at different opportunities, and I won't name the company because actually we went through the vetting process and it did not pass the vetting process, and so it stopped. But I think it was very helpful for everyone to have gone through the vetting process and understand where that was and why it did not work. But there were a couple of projects that we helped. We're looking at prospectively going to an area near the Kennedy Space Center, specifically to do some industrial work, and that was not, they just did not quite have the business plan to be able to support the degree of investment that would be required. And so that was, we went through that process and were able to make that determination and move forward on some other projects. But that was one in particular where I can think of a pretty large scale deal where you just had to take a very hard look at some, and there were some great things that were very strong pros, and there were some there were some strong cons, and sort of making that call and making that determination, I think is part of the key to this whole process. There are a number of other projects where we've helped bring in different, as I mentioned, we brought in some different equipment. There was a fuel cell electric bus that we were able to identify that was basically surplus federal equipment from another facility. We were able to bring that into Kennedy Space Center to do some testing, and actually at the same time working with some other communities. The city of Tallahassee actually has some of the buses from that company that they brought in and are actually in road service now. So we're able to do some collaborative things there. We've been developing some of those relationships.
Any questions from board members?
Yeah, so you don't really have any clients in our area right now?
At this time, in our area,
Yeah, the Heartland area.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, we do not.
Okay. I was looking at your website, and it looked to me like you work with businesses more than you do IDAs and counties and stuff like that. Is that right?
We work very closely with businesses, yes. I mean, one of the things that we do in this process is help businesses, grow and meet their goals also. We have worked with communities as well. We are a nonprofit. We work on both sides. What we try and do is we help the organizations that we work meet their goals, whatever those might be.
Okay, when you, and this has always been a problem with me with groups like this, is that when you do get on top of a business or two that wants to come into Florida or something, how do you decide if you're going to bring them to Hardee County, or you're going to give them to Orange County or Brevard County? How do we know that the process is fair if we're entrusting you to help us bring in something that'll fit for us?
I'll let.
I'm sure you've heard this question.
That's one of my pet peeves, because good economic development is like chemistry. You put the right ingredients together. Bad economic development is like alchemy. It happens in secret. And so what we do for both the business and for the client, we really try to be fact-driven. If they tell us we need to be near a railroad track, we need to be close to the water, we need to have this much power, we really give options to the client. So one thing about us, unlike other groups, we really try to have no agenda. We really try to get the criteria that people want and give it to them and let them make the decision. And we do not pick technologies, we do not pick winners, we do not pick losers. We truly try to make it fact-based. We put many notes because we like to give people, if we say we're going to pick the top 3 or top 5, sometimes we'll put a 6 on there just to let them know there's another option. But we really, whoever we work for, we try to be fact-driven by that criteria and really try to be unemotional about it. So that's how we do that. And I can tell you, I know exactly what you're talking about. I've been the victim of it. So, and other states do it differently. And Florida makes you really compete against itself, which other states do not. So, you really have areas of the state competing against each other, which puts some people in a bad situation. So we are very painfully aware of that situation and try to be fact-driven.
I see where you write grants. Who do you write the grants for? Do you write them for the business that we're looking at, or do you write grants for this board?
Oh, we could do either. It's really dependent upon who would like to engage us to do that type of work. We have worked with a number on proposals for a number of different agencies, and certain agencies only allow certain types of entities to apply. So it depends on the agency that you're applying for and some other factors. But we work for businesses in grant writing. We work for communities in grant writing.
Okay, I guess this is a 2 question for, I see where you've got vetting down here. We already have a contract with the chamber to do our vetting. So I don't know how the vetting would fit. Maybe our chair could explain that to me.
How the vetting would fit what?
Who would do the vetting? We have a contract with the chamber to do our vetting, and they've got vetting on here. So would the chamber continue to do our vetting, or would we allow these people to do it? Would they do it?
Well, I think that the proposal outlines that if we want to engage them to vet a project, that's what they're here to discuss, how they would engage with us to vet a project if we chose to go that route.
Well, that's my question, Vanessa. We have a contract with the chamber to do the vetting.
I don't think that we have a indefinite project contract with the chamber. I think that's how we've chosen to do the vetting in the past. We're looking at other options. I think that you've been a critic of that process in the past, so I thought you would be.
Well, that's another question. That's another question for you. The vetting process. They say they're going to vet financial. Well, we don't allow that on this board, to vet a company's financials. So are you gonna let them vet the financials if they vet somebody for us?
I wouldn't say that we have established a precedent that we don't vet financials either. You know, you seem to draw specific things out of specific projects that you don't
Absolutely.
like and continue to make them issues moving forward for every single
We need to do
project or conversation. I think what we need to do is look at what can we do as an organization to be better and move forward and stop being so critical of everything that has been done. How can we improve? And if you're going to continue to criticize everything that is brought before the board, I don't know who would come into this room and subject themselves to that. Do
I'm
you
just saying, let's do it fair for everybody.
Well, I
But you
agree.
did not support vetting the financials of Continuum Labs.
I don't,
You were against that. And
I,
I'm just trying to make sure that
Yeah.
moving forward, we're going to vet financials. Are we
again,
or are we not?
let's stay on.
Say again, Mike. You said something.
We're gonna stay on the topic. The topic is not Continuum Labs. The topic is how can we engage Energy Florida, if we choose to do so, and leverage their expertise to help us grow economic development. That's the topic. So let's stay on the topic and talk about, is this an avenue we want to go down? Is this a resource that we want to try to utilize or not?
I'll tell you, Mr. Adler, if you wanted to definitely get my support for this, you would have brought Linda South. Because back years ago, I was the chairman of the workforce board in this area, and my director passed away just immediately. Linda South came over here, volunteered to come over here from, I don't know where she was in Brevard or where she was, Volusia or somewhere at the time. And she kept our board up and going until we could get straightened out from our director dying. She is a wonderful person, a very smart person, and she is a very helpful person. So, you know, if nothing else, you'd get my support because Linda South is on your board.
Thank you. We're very excited to have her as our vice chair. She keeps us in line.
She is very, very good. I mean, she's a wonderful person, but she's a very smart person, and I would trust her in anything.
And one thing I want to say about vetting, one of our expertise is technical vetting, because many times smaller communities have no resources to validate people's technology, where we have the resources of universities and the Space Center. So, and again, our services are like a Chinese menu. You don't have to pick any or all. You can pick, one or two. But we also vet technologies, which, many people do not do. They do not look at the actual technology. If they can, and we can give you a level that this is a 7, this is 9, this is a 5 on the technologies they propose.
I do have some additional questions on the vetting. Who determines the criteria? If we had a client that we wanted to discuss with your organization, who determines the criteria? What should be considered and what should be looked at, and what you're going to actually vet, whether it's the technology, the financials. How do you determine what the criteria will be?
We have a process for vetting that we've used in the past, and I think what we would do is we would share that with staff most likely and talk that through, and if we thought that we needed to bring it before the board, we'd be happy to talk about what are the criteria for the vetting process that we would go through under a prospective or agreement with Hardy County.
Can I elaborate on that for a moment? When you begin talking about vetting, it's different for every project. And there are companies that come to this community that we work with that don't want anything but information. It may be a national site selector that's looking for a retail location. In that instance, we probably wouldn't use them for anything. And generally, they would not ask for any incentives. And that's a real distinguishing factor in the level of vetting, is whether or not they're seeking some type of incentive from this board or from any grant that we may sponsor or tax incentive that the Board of County Commissioners may provide them. So a lot of the vetting recipe depends on the circumstances. We today have at least 3 projects that I would seek their advice and assistance on that I think could be outside the competency of chamber vetting. First one is National Solar. I want to clean it up. I want to take it off our books, or I want it to advance. It's been hanging around out there, and I need a third party to independently verify that we should continue to allocate money for them, or we should terminate it. I don't want to unilaterally decide that. I could. I can just come to you and say, I recommend not doing this funding. Well, that's fine, but if the board says, we don't want to waste our time with them, we just want to cut it off, fine, we can do that. But if someone says, well, I'd like to have a third-party opinion, then this group sits there available for us to develop a third-party opinion, and in some instances, it may prevent us from some type of litigation down the road. The next project that I would have some very high level of interest in them looking at is Fort Greene LNG. Now, Fort Greene LNG has never really asked this board for anything. I have worked with them for almost 7 years, and they have been through the process, and I want to comment on this other process in just a moment, but it is the ancillary bounce of Fort Greene LNG that I would be most interested in. Is if they actually become a reality in Hardee County, how do we become prepared to make that economic development impact the best for our community? I believe this group could help us in that interest. Back to the comment I wanted to make, though, a lot of people, I've heard it in this room, I've heard it from different board members, but is at least my philosophy on this process, and at some point we probably should have some dialogue relative to this, they want to vet people if they come to Hardee County. They have to be vetted, they have to be looked at. I don't think vetting of everyone that comes to Hardee County is within the purview of the Industrial Development Authority or the Economic Development Council. If someone buys a piece of property in Hardee County and comes and goes through the process, if they need a special exception, if they need a zoning change, or if it's appropriately zoned already, and they go to the Planning and Zoning Department, I don't know that we have any reason to be commenting on some of those other types of projects that may happen totally independent from what we do. But the most specific group that we deal with, that I want to make certain henceforth that we do a good job with, is those entities that are seeking funding from this board. And I think we have to have a vested interest in doing additional due diligence to make certain that we at least structure whatever business relationship we have with them is done with some third-party vetting. And a lot of this third-party vetting it's professional vetting. And that's why I'm recommending that we consider working with someone like Energy Florida.
I agree.
Thank you.
If they're going to ask for money from this board, their financials should be vetted. That's what I'm saying. I'm trying to get that across, but I'm getting pushback from that. And that's just all I'm saying. You know, if somebody comes in here and don't need anything from us, well, no, we don't need to vet them, in my opinion.
So I did have some additional questions for you on your vetting process.
Sure.
With the section 11 under confidential information, I just have a few questions for you on how this might work.
Okay.
Relative to, public entities and public organizations, with you holding confidentiality with the company that you're vetting. Have you had any issues working with public agencies and vetting companies and maintaining the confidentiality based on your current agreements that you sign, or have you been challenged on any of the information that you've been presented to keep confidential? And then the second part of that question that I have for you under this confidentiality section would be, I know you mentioned earlier that you had a company that did not pass the vetting process, so you needed to communicate that back, obviously, to the parties involved. How exactly do you explain your findings if you don't do 11.5, making any negative or disparaging comments against the party? I'm just kind of curious how that works. Is it just you give a grading or a scale of some sort, and if it's a low number, then it's perceived to be that it did not pass the process?
It depends what it is. I mean, we've had things that have been sort of trivial, like the owner doesn't have a succession plan, which we just named because he needs to do one. Our biggest concern truly has been dealing with third parties. We deal a lot with Enterprise Florida and Space Florida and groups like that, and we really have to be careful with information on a third party. We have all our procedures in place for internally and with clients, but we are extremely careful. We also brief the client, if there's a new person, explicitly about the Sunshine Law, the Public Records Law. So we are extremely careful. When in doubt, we have a great attorney, and we have a great attorney on our board. We immediately ask. We try not to put anything that would be litigious, so it's really based on fact. Again, we go back to fact. They did not meet this criteria, and depending what it is, financial, and oftentimes we like people to come back. If this problem's fixed, they can come back a year and it can work. So we really try not to be critical but factual. They did not have the financial resources, and it could be something, they need to get 100 more clients to meet this criteria. So we really try not to be negative. It is, what is the criteria, and they did not meet it. And most of them, I think we really had one, but most of them, it's like they look at it as for improvement. Oh, we'll do the succession plan. We'll get some more secured contracts and that sort of thing. So really, a lot of people try to put opinions, and really, the banks don't care. It's the facts on the table. So.
Any other questions or comments from board members?
I like, on this thing of money that Bill was talking about, if they want money from the board, what also should be included is like 3 years free rent. I mean, that's money. That's a lot of money. So that should be included. If people will get 3 years free rent, they should be vetted.
You also have experience working with industrial development bonds. Do you vet projects or do any feasibility studies that are required for the bond issuance, or how do you determine who orders or issues the feasibility studies?
One thing we have to be careful of, you cannot be on each side of the deal. So we are very specific about that. So if we do a market assessment and it's for the finance side, we only do the market assessment. If it's for the client, we don't then go and we say it's good on their side because we did the work. So one, we're very conscious who the client is. Yes, we have done, for the business, we have done the market analysis, and we would stand by that whether we do that for government or for the company. So yes, we have done business analysis. Because most of the time the bond attorney has done the bulk of the due diligence, we do the specialty. And some of the markets are so niche that they really have to hire somebody to go look at a specific biofuel market or something. So we do a lot of the niche market analysis. So, and Mike's an economist, so that helps. So.
In the agreement, I noticed what your, process to engage you in, submitting a notice to proceed and the hourly rate. Can you give us some sort of idea, if we did engage you to vet a project, is there, some general hourly or approximate cost that you can give this board some sort of idea if we were to engage you to vet a project?
I would say it would really depend on the project, and it depends upon the scope of the work that you want us to go look at in terms of the size of the project, the number of different elements that are involved in that particular project. I mean, certainly when we get talking about a specific project, we probably could come up with an assessment, but I couldn't give you one off the cuff just for.
I'm Ben Boucher. The way it's outlined in the draft agreement, basically your staff would come to us and say, we need to have you guys take a look at this company, this is criteria that we select that we want you to evaluate for us. We'll come back with estimated hours for doing that, give that back to your staff, have them approve it, they'll give us a written notice to proceed. and we'll bill you accordingly. And all the billing will be, you know, if Mike worked 2 hours on such a task, that will be in the billing. If I work 5 hours, it will be in the billing. Everything will be time, date, documented. There won't be any question as to, you know, how he billed you and how he came up with the figures. So,
Thank you.
all right.
Any other questions from board members?
There was one place in there, and I can't seem to find it right now, where you said the only people you'll share information with is the board and the staff and things like that. Was that part of this somewhere?
Well, there's certain things that are protected. Yeah, you know, it's in section 11, page 4. We have to be
But
very.
it named actual groups. Well, I guess it's 11.3. That you will disclose the information to the officers, directors, employees, auditors, accountants, attorneys. And, you know, I'm fine with that. We just need that to happen here. And I'm just saying, if it's in this contract, are we gonna get to know this information, or is it gonna be kept secret from the board?
I would believe, you know, working with your staff on this contract, we have to be careful about, you know, intellectual property, you know.
Oh, I agree with that, the intellectual property, you're right.
But anything that's not protected by Florida statute should be open to the public.
Well, that's something that we don't really know. I mean, we're told some
Right.
things are, but we don't really know.
Right.
Anyway,
Well,
I like that 11.3,
okay,
if
thank
it's
you.
followed.
No, I agree, you know, unless there's a specific exemption in statute that would preclude disclosure, then it should be disclosed.
I agree.
But you know the business when you ask them to
Right.
give you information, they're gonna say, well, we want to enter confidentiality.
Right, yeah, yeah. And we're
That is
gonna have-
going to happen, or you're not gonna look at some of their information.
Right, but, you know, we'll have to, if we're gonna be vetting a company on your behalf, we're gonna have to do an NDA with them, but, you know, they're gonna have to give us the information with the caveat that, you know, or if there's a specific exemption that they want to declare, they need to tell us, you know, if they want an exemption. And we gotta tell them up front that, you know, we're looking at everything. You know, we want to vet that company, and we want to look at, you know, the whole 9 yards. And if there's an exemption that they want to declare, that's fine, put it on the record, and then we'll take note of it and report back to you on what they want to, you know, leave out of it. And, but, you know, with a non-disclosure agreement, I could talk to staff, you know, about those issues, but I can't talk publicly about those IP or other issues.
Sounds good to me.
Do you have any examples of vetting reports you might be able to share with us that would give us an example of what work product we would expect to see look like?
Well, one of the slides, we had a dashboard, which was like a screenshot, you know, that we give to the clients so they can see all the benchmarks, everything. We'd probably get you something. We'd probably get you an example to take a look at.
Maybe that'd be helpful.
No,
Have an idea what the
Absolutely.
product we're paying for.
yeah, oh, absolutely.
Understanding it's going to change with every single
Right.
vetting process, but still the scope, how you guys prepare to give us that information.
Right, each client's gonna be different, each case is gonna be different, and that's,
If something's been scrubbed, that has any,
right.
Further questions or comments from board members?
Madam Chair,
Yes.
just listening to all this, and I think Bill's right about a company such as National Solar, something, you know, ongoing but stalled and whatever. You don't necessarily want to pull the plug on it, but you would like to know, excuse me, where it is, what's going on. It might be, it would definitely be educational, wouldn't be mind about it, it would definitely be educational if get the bill to get them to develop and come up with a proposal to vet National Solar, and if come back to the board with some kind of a recommendation as to whether we want to proceed. About the only way that you're going to find out if you like what they do is to get them to do something. And if you get them to vet that and it's satisfactory, then you'll know that you can develop some kind of confidence and continue the project, other projects that will come forward. I think that particular one is one that needs to be cleared up one way or the other.
Well, why don't we just ask them?
Well, they're going to.
And if they say, yeah, then I agree we need to vet them. But if they say, I mean, it's been what, 10 years, 5 years, 6 years? That money's just sitting there?
2.5, 3 years.
I think it's been longer than that.
It have been 10.
Well, it hadn't been 10, but it's been 5 or 6 years that money's been sitting there. I know, Mike, I'm wrong about everything. But anyway, if they, you know, in the past, you've had communication with them, Bill. And they keep saying, yeah, they're coming. But if you ask them again and they say, yeah, then I agree, let's vet them. And see if, that's it.
Well, I think what
I'd get an answer
what
from
Mike
them.
is suggesting is that we consider just allowing them to do a preliminary vetting as an example and enter into some kind of contractual agreement for them to show us their quality of work with National Solar. It appears to be an easy, cut and dried circumstance, but it may not be. I don't know. And we just dip our toe in the water on that project and see what happens, and if it works, then we move forward with other more significant circumstances. And there are others that we could certainly utilize our circumstances.
All right, where in the budget that we have the money to get into a contract with them? Is it there? Is the money there to do it?
Yes.
Okay, that's all I'm asking.
Well, there's no money that's directly appropriated. We would need to appropriate some money to do that.
Well, that's what I mean. Is it
But we
available?
also need to enter into a contract, and the whole purpose today was to give you some exposure. And, you know, the board may say, well, we'd like you to find other entities that do this kind of work. I'm here, I asked them to come today to make a presentation to you, and you can move forward with them, or we can look into the market, or we can postpone. There is no real pleasure of the board at this point.
What is the length of this contract? I mean, I wouldn't want to do a long-term contract, but maybe a short-term, but just to see.
If we entered into a contract with them, they are basically offering to do this consultation, vetting, whatever we do with each individual item. We want them to look at it $150 an hour, and it's that cut and dry,
Just as needed.
as needed.
Okay.
You can terminate the contract 30 days notice, and that's fine.
Any other questions, comments from board members? So, Bill, are you looking for something specific today, or do you have a recommendation?
At the last meeting, I asked you for some guidance on whether or not you would like me to proceed with a meeting with these folks. I did that. I asked them to come to the meeting today so that you could get a feel for them and their competencies. And we may table this issue, or you can ask us to develop a preliminary contract. If you want to go so far as ask us to develop a contract strictly to vet National Solar and look at it over the next month, we can come back and see what they find in the presentation and then take up additional contract. So it's up to you.
In your interpretation of the contract, is there exclusivity on our part to, if we engage you in this contract, to exclusively use you for vetting or consulting services, or is it pretty much when we engage you with, you know, the provisions that you have in this contract?
Yes, you guys are consulting with us. You have, you'll engage us. We'll do work based on what your staff tells us to work on. And we'll, if that company that we're vetting happens to be somewhere else in our universe, we'll tell you that, we have contact with that company, we can't vet that company, okay? And, we'll disclose any conflicts that are out there.
And I thought I heard you say that, we have the hourly rate specified, but that you would give us a plan for that vetting as far as giving us an outline of the overall cost before we move forward.
Right. So, say with National Solar, for example, we would ask your staff provide some background information for us. We'll evaluate that, and then we'll propose back a scope of services to vet, National Solar and your consideration and approval.
Thank you. Do we have a recommendation from the board?
Should we do just the vetting, or should we more or less have them on a retainer type situation? Because there might be some other, with their level of expertise, different type of projects and everything else. If we write a contract with vetting, we're kind of limited what we can use them for. Where we just basically set them up, on some type of retainer, and we write a contract that we can use them for a year period or whatever.
You don't require a retainer to do.
No, I'm just saying, but basically on that type of scenario.
It would be a contractual, basically we would contract in.
I like this one myself, but I haven't heard from anybody else. I mean, I'm ready to do this one.
I think the contract is pretty straightforward.
It does me too.
It's more of a consulting contract than a
Yeah,
contract.
I'll make the
I think
motion.
it's more along the lines of what you're suggesting, Mike.
It doesn't obligate us to do anything, but.
No, it doesn't.
Should we choose to.
Right.
Not that I can see, but it does.
Has Ken reviewed this?
He has, but he hasn't finished it,
Hasn't finished one.
the review on the contract.
Oh, okay, then we can wait till next time then.
Well, we could,
Or
we can.
approve it and then ask them if there's any changes, if they approve it, I guess I'll.
If I'm understanding correctly, if the board says today that you to go ahead and develop, basically a quote, for lack of a better word, for what it's gonna cost, then the next meeting you come back with a proposal for what it's gonna cost to get it done. In the meantime, Ken can continue to look at this and make sure it suits him. No reason to put it off another month, go ahead and get the ball rolling.
I'm talking about the entire contract.
I'm talking about the entire contract. I'm talking about the entire contract. I'm talking about get the ball rolling on an estimate, see what it's going to cost to vet National Solar. That's what I would.
Yeah, I think I'm along the same lines.
I think we can always amend the motion to include approval of our attorney.
Yeah, and that's where it kind of gets sticky. I mean, to me, if Ken says, well, there's two words in here need to be changed, and then they're going to have to agree either the words are going to be changed or not going to be changed. I mean, where do we go from there?
I think we can still continue to work through that process while they vote. It may take us another month to get it approved.
Well, if they're agreeable to that, then I've made the motion to approve this, and with the attorney looking at it, and I don't know what that's going to do, but anyway, I'll do that.
Okay, so we have a motion on the table. Do we
What's
have
the motion?
the motion is to approve the consulting agreement pending review of our attorney. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's good.
Okay,
That's good.
do you also want to appropriate some money? Or not? Because it's, I mean,
If we're going, yeah, and include the vetting of the solar people, if that's what you want. I agree with that.
If we can, just so we don't muddy the waters.
I agree with that.
Can we just deal with the consulting agreement and then we can discuss the project
And then we should ask
allocation?
we should ask them to come back with a quote. Once we get that quote, then we can talk about appropriating money.
Okay, I'll agree with that.
I could actually quote several things by the next meeting.
Okay, so the motion, for clarification, is to approve the consulting agreement pending our attorney's review.
Okay, I agree with that. I agree with that.
I have Donald and Doug. Any other questions or comments from the board?
But what was your comment right then, Bill? What did you say?
I said that I could get with them on several different things that I feel like we should vet henceforth, and they can come back with proposals on those projects. We can bullet out all the different things we need to look at with multiple projects. And back, I want to go back to chamber vetting. There's still a role for chamber vetting in this process. But if they're basically producing the technical information, the scientific information, the regional economic information, that would be above the purview of what any of us would normally be considered appropriate to do, it's just ancillary, it could just be considered as ancillary information. They may produce a report that goes to the chamber, and the chamber passes judgment. Do we agree or disagree? None of that is circumvented in this process.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Do we have any other discussion or comments from board members? If not, we'll open for public comment. If there's no public comment, we'll go ahead and take a vote. All those in favor? Anyone opposed? Motion passes unanimously.
All right, thank you very much. We look forward to working with all of you.
Thank you, and thank you for your presentation.